Drum roll.
We need to actually bring a drum. I was thinking about that.
It's not trouble. It's not these kids that are, they're causing issues or, it's not crime. It's actually these young people are just trying to survive. There's constant stimulation where we're teaching a generation of young people now to not be able to sit there, be with themselves for 5-10 minutes without saying, I'm bored. How do we just keep making sure young people are aware that there's people that care and people that want to make a difference? And I think that's where my work comes in.
Hello and welcome back to the Social Matters podcast. We are three social workers talking about social matters. I'm Fran.
I'm Nadia.
Hi, and I'm Eugene.
And we have a special guest with us in the studio today. Drum roll.
We need to actually bring a drum. I was thinking about that.
It's just a nice way to heat ourselves up on this cold winter day. And we're just going to do a little intro to our very special guest, Vivian Tanaka. So Vivian is the founder of Kamelion, a youth wellbeing app co-designed with young people to embed mental health support into daily life in the UK. A youth worker, single mother, self-made entrepreneur, she draws on her lived experience of poverty, resilience and systemic barriers to fuel her work. And we're so excited to have you here and join you in our conversation about you, your work and your app. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes. We're going to launch straight in, if that's okay, with the first question. Thank you for being here. We know you've traversed the land. It's not been that far, but you've come further than London, so I appreciate that. So welcome. And to start off, could you tell the listeners a bit about yourself, the work that you do and your journey to your very exciting and innovative app called Kamelion?
My name is Vivian and my work is like at the intersection between positive youth development, mental health, well-being and innovation. And where did this come from? It came from my lived experience through mental health challenges, well-being and just growing up and, having different experiences that make you wake up and realize how important like your relationship with yourself is and how important your mental health is. Not only that, over the last 10 years or so, I've worked with young people, speaking to them about their mental health, well-being. I've had the privilege of essentially sitting there with young people, as social workers, you know what that's like, and having that privilege to enter their world and really see them, hear them and understand where they're coming from. And sitting there and all the hours that I've had with them, it made me realize there were things missing and there was young people slipping through the cracks and the systems and the structures in place weren't really supporting young people. And it was being designed in a way that missed some young people and made us feel like being human meant sometimes we're broken, which is sometimes we're not. We're just going through life and we're learning, we're growing at the same time. And that doesn't mean we're broken. It just means sometimes we've got to go through certain things, learn about ourselves, learn about life and learn to cope with those things. And through that, young people said they wanted something that would help them on a day-to-day basis rather than essentially, which is naturally how they kind of get support, is crisis. They wanted something that could actually say, how can I help myself every day? How can I get through life on a day-to-day basis? How can I build the knowledge and skills to support myself? So essentially, young people are not digging themselves holes every day. Actually, they're rising up and we're empowering them rather than saying, actually, you're not severe enough to get support and you need to wait on the waiting list for 2 years till you get support because actually you're actually fine. You're fine. Come to us when you want to kill yourself instead. And that's what some young people have told me. They've said, you know what? I only get help when I say I want to kill myself or I'm self-harming, rather than actually say, just give me some help, give me some support. How do I cope? So that's where my work came from. And it's just about, I'm a person who likes to have impact. I like to make a difference. I want to leave this earth and know actually I've helped one or two people. And that's what I'm here for, to essentially move young people forward and move the system forward. So essentially young people and those young people from disadvantaged backgrounds also have access. So we reduce those inequalities for those young people maybe where mental health is stigmatized or they're not normally met where they are or they struggle to get access. So it's just about actually how do we make mental health, well-being a part of everyday life so it's relatable, accessible and actually helps people to move forward in a way that meets them to actually help themselves.
Love that.
I was like, preach,
go on,
mic drop.
Yeah. But it's so powerful to really think about centering young people in whatever we create as people working with and for young people. Sometimes I think it's easy to decenter them when thinking about a service you're offering them or a product you're offering them. So yeah, really powerful to hear you speak in that way.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what you were saying about when young people just need something on a day-to-day. I just think being a young person in this day and age is not a joke, you know? And I just really kind of think about the thing like the innovation of, you know, an app to kind of help, you know, young people on a day-to-day. But I just wonder, like, what are some of the kind of challenges that young people are facing at the moment with regards to their mental health? And like, why do you think it's so important for us to be, you know, talking about it and thinking about it?
I think like what you said, being a young person in today's age is hard. It's difficult. We're living in such a fast changing world. And if you're not keeping up, you're kind of going to get left behind. And the only way we can support young people is by helping them to become adaptable and giving them knowledge and tools to be able to do that. Because if we don't, we're going to have a generation of young people not knowing how to cope with life, not knowing how to deal with everyday situations sometimes. Growing up is not easy. Being a teenager is not easy. So I think it's very much around like the challenges young people are going through today are overstimulation and comparison. We're living in a connected world. When I was growing up, like, yeah, I was the first generation to use social media, but it wasn't as comparison focused as it is now. And you sit there in your house, whether it's in London or wherever it is, and you're seeing this person's life in, you know, in America, around the world, and you're thinking, well, my life doesn't look like that. I'm not that pretty. I'm not that hench. My experiences are not like that. It's going to make you feel like who you are is not good enough. Your life is not good enough. And some people like to call it a bit of life dysmorphia, where you're constantly looking at the flaws of yourself and your life. Nothing's going to be good enough. And also that overstimulation. How many of us can actually sit there with ourselves on a day-to-day basis? Not many of us. You're eating, you're on your phone, you're scrolling. You're washing the dishes, you're scrolling. You're brushing your teeth, you're scrolling. You walk around the streets, everybody's got something in their ears. There's constant stimulation where we're teaching a generation of young people now to not be able to sit there, be with themselves for 5-10 minutes without saying, I'm bored. And why is it these young people are being distracted from themselves? Why are they being distracted from their world instead of focusing? But what they're doing instead is focusing on external. But you live with yourself every single day. And if you're constantly comparing and overstimulated, it's going to be tricky when you actually have those down moments. You're going to feel like, actually, I need fixing, I'm broken. When you actually realize those things are normal part of being human, you don't need to be constantly stimulated or have dopamine hits or be constantly entertained. And the other one is around identity. And if you're looking at young people wanting to fit in, and when you're a teenager, you're finding yourself, you're growing up, you're realizing, who am I? Where do I go? Where do I stand? What do I want for myself? And your identity is a really big part of that. So trying to find your identity when you're influenced by influencers online, trying to find your identity when you're being influenced by thousands of people online or millions or billions of other people is difficult when you're constantly being told, this is what's right, this is what's right, this is what's right, this is how you should be. Actually, where's your mind? What do you think? Who are you and what do you stand for? So again, it's around that challenge around identity and who they are. And the other one is isolation and loneliness. We're the most connected generation that's ever lived. But why are we the generation that's most struggling with loneliness and isolation? We're sitting behind our phones, our screens constantly. We're seeking connection. That's why we're wanting to be stimulated, because we're wanting connection. We're wanting other people to see us, to hear us, to understand us, to validate us. But actually behind the scenes, maybe our families are not seeing us, because technology addiction is a big thing. Most of us are addicted to technology, and that's a fact. Like, we're not talking about it because it's the normal thing. We're constantly on our phones. So if young people are isolated in their bedrooms behind their phones, yes, they're constantly talking with friends and family or whoever it is online, but that initial connection, we're humans. We need to be with people. We need to be around other people. And it's tricky when you're being connected in a way where some people maybe don't see you. The little things that we see in person, the body language, the facial expressions. And the last thing is just around, just access to mental health and early help to actually understand, gain more knowledge on these things, that these things are happening and these are normal, and what responsibility, what action can you take as a young person to help yourself to learn? Because again, knowledge is power. When you have that knowledge and the skills, when life does get a little bit tricky, or when people are telling you, whether that's family or friends as well, telling you this is who you should be or how you should be, you can start actually, let me pause for a minute. How do I reflect on this situation, and what do I think is best? And I think it's about very much empowering young people through those challenges. But there are just a handful of situations, but there's so many others that young people are going through, like self-esteem, you know, trying to understand themselves. There's so much going on, but I think we need to teach young people that they don't need to be perfect. They just need to be human, and that's the thing.
Yeah, so many gems that you drop when I listen to you. It's so relevant and so necessary now. Because I agree, like, with what you're saying, Nance. Like, I think it's probably the most challenging time to grow up as a young person in the past 20, 30, 40 years. And this is where your app comes in, so your app Kamelion. So it's an app that was co-designed with young people, which I think is quite rare in society now from my limited knowledge. But what did that process teach you about the importance of early intervention for young people, and what that should look like and feel like?
That journey didn't just start with developing the app. It started way before that, when I was speaking to young people and actually listening to what they were saying and listening to what they said they wanted. And like, young people were being taught a lot about mental health, but they were taught it from a clinical perspective. Depression, anxiety, labels, but actually it wasn't relating to them on a day-to-day basis. Young people were saying, we're tired. We understand it. We get this is depression. We get this is anxiety. We get this is all, you know, OCD, all these eating disorders. They understood what those were, but they were like, actually help us, teach us to actually cope with those things. Because some of us are not clinically diagnosed, but what you're seeing as well is loads of young people diagnosing themselves. It's like self-diagnosis, because, you know, like, labels help us to understand things, and that's normal. So young people wanted the knowledge and tools. So I started essentially when I used to do one-to-one sessions with young people, and when I do sit down with young people on a one-to-one basis, and I used to do workshops, I used to start teaching them like around positive psychology. So my background is positive psychology. I've got a master's in positive psychology, and I was teaching them about self-compassion, about gratitude, about positive emotions, about what it means to have hope as a young person, and all these things. They were like, oh, we never been taught this type of stuff from a, like, you know, mental health perspective. I was teaching them about their strengths. I think as people, we know what's wrong with us. We just want to know, how do we move forward from that? And when I say what's wrong with us, we know things that are affecting us individually, but sometimes we get overwhelmed. We don't know where we are, we don't know where we're going, or how to cope with those things. So I started teaching young people to actually start appreciating certain things about themselves, building that relationship that they have with themselves, and teaching them actually that voice that you have in your head matters, because that could either be your best friend or you could be your worst enemy. And what you want to do is you want it to be your friend. You want to make life your friend rather than seeing life as your enemy. So from those conversations and delivering workshops with young people, I had a non-profit before that, which I used to go into schools and teach like workshops around that type of stuff. Then I was like, you know what? It's only one me. I can't scale. And I know there's young people who wouldn't traditionally seek mental health support because of stigma, because maybe it's not accepted within their culture. I was like, how can we reach young people where they are based on what I'd heard? I was like, you know what? An app. And I was like, I'm not technical. I know nothing.
I'm wondering that.
I didn't know how to. I'm not technical whatsoever. And actually, the only thing that kind of gave me the okay, we can do this is, I was sitting in my local gym one day and I heard like an investor.
Not doing your gym stuff, clearly.
No, I was sitting there working. My gym is like it's got a co-working space. So I was working there, and there's loads of people work there. Then I heard a man saying on the phone, oh, I can't invest this amount in your business, but I can invest this amount. I was like, who is this man? I was like, who is this man? People can invest money in businesses. And, I was like, oh, okay. So after that, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this app. I didn't know the how, but I just knew I wanted to do it. So I approached him and I said, hi. And funny enough, I'd gone on his website, because I used to sit opposite him quite often, and I was listening to what he was saying. It took me months to approach him because I was building up the confidence. Then I eventually learned what his name is. Then I went on his website, and at the bottom of his website, this is what gave me like, wow, I think I'm in the right place at the right time, and this is the right thing to do. At the bottom of his website, he said, I welcome approaches from Black, Asian, BAME women or ethnicity, people who are obviously minority ethnic, particularly women who are underrepresented in the tech space.
Wow.
I was like, oh.
This is like sliding doors moment.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, how odd that you live near me, you are here, and that's what you've wrote on your website. Then I was like, I'm going to approach him. I was going to see is he actually a person of his word, or is he just doing it to tick a box? So, and when I did approach him, he was like, okay, what do you want? I was like, I want your time and knowledge and experience. He goes, money, introductions. I was like, nope, just your. He was like, okay. So he was like, what do you want? I was like, I want you to mentor me. I know you've invested in tech companies. I want your help to be able to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. He worked with me for 6 months, and they started guiding me. He was like, okay, what we need is to get young people into this. I know you've worked with young people. I know you said this is what they want, but before we build this thing, I need you to go and actually sit with the young people. So for 18 months, we just launched Kamelion in September. For 18 months, we co-designed the app with young people. I was going into a school, speaking with the young people, and the first session I had with them, I was like to him, okay, so imagine you had a place, like a magic toolbox that would help you to cope with everyday life, manage, ups and downs, manage your mental health and well-being, and be the best version of yourself. What would you want on it? So I wasn't saying, so imagine you had depression, anxiety, what would you want to help you? I was saying, what would help you to move forward in life? How would you want to cope with everyday life? So we designed it together. The kids were like, we want it to be able to, for us to be able to go there and express ourselves. We want to connect with other people. We want experts. We want to learn knowledge and tools. We want it to be gamified. And so they wanted it to feel like a game. They're like, think about Roblox, Snapchat, and, TikTok. There's a reason why we use those things. They keep our engagement and they're fun. And they're like, we want rewards on the app. I was like, rewards? I was like, why? One young person was like, because Miss, life is hard and we're broke. We're broke and life is hard. So it's like, so what do you want? What rewards do you want? They were like, we want discount to Primark, to Nike, all this type of stuff. I was like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And so the app has been designed through what young people have said. They've given us what they wanted. So on the app, we've got mood check-ins, we've got challenges where they can unlock different levels, just like what they do in games. Do wellbeing challenges. Everything is evidence-based. They've got a community where they can seek support, ask questions, and peer support each other. We've got leaderboards, we've got streaks, we've got personality tests, because young people were like, I want to learn a little bit more about myself, have personality insights, that self-awareness. We've got courses, which we call mental gyms, and these are like essentially courses by professionals. So it's got loads of different things, and we've got like different categories that we have within the app, which is my mind, my character, my social life, health and fitness, careers and money. So we're helping them in a holistic way to support themselves. And on top of that, the one thing that really like young people love is we reward them for it. We reward young people for investing in themselves, because what tends to happen is people start working on themselves when something happens. We want to embed Kamelion in everyday life, and for them working on themselves, coming onto an app, some adults are like, oh, ban kids off phones. We're like, no, give them something positive to be on their phones for. So for everything they do on Kamelion, they get rewarded, they earn a currency, and they redeem that for retailer discounts such as Primark, Nike, all that type of stuff. And then literally they can be working on themselves today, get the coins, they could be leaving school and essentially go to Tesco, scan, get that discount straight away. So it's literally real life kind of, rewards where they can actually see the tangible like rewards as to like, this is the work I'm putting into myself. So well done. And you get rewarded for it. So, and also for those young people that are disadvantaged who may not be able to have money to go and purchase maybe things from Nike or get a meal deal, for example, or for example, go to cinema with their friends. Young people can just say, let's spend a week on Kamelion learning, and then let's go to the cinema over the weekend. That's the reward they've got for working on themselves. So again, it's about, like most of us go to work to get paid, or sometimes the stuff we love to do. And this is the same thing, concept, like how can we incentivize young people to work on themselves so we can reduce the waiting list, so we can actually support the overstretched systems and actually put young people, give them the skills and empower them and the knowledge to actually help themselves. So that's what we're doing.
Sounds amazing, and so much kind of thought and work into those different aspects of it. Where can they just download it? Like, how do people?
Yeah, so just go to Kamelion.co, and then you can also type it on the App Store. You can find it that way, but like young people need codes and stuff, so if young people want to sign up for it, they can. Obviously companies, schools, local authorities can also purchase licenses for their students, and they can access it.
Oh, sounds brilliant. I don't want to get on the Kamelion app myself.
Sorry, Fred, you're not a young person.
You're not a young person.
Yeah, it's for 11 to 18 year olds. But loads of adults are like, I like this.
It sounds great.
Your work also, really importantly, because we think a lot about intersectionality on this podcast, talks about and reflects on the intersection between race and mental health. What would you want sort of people either working in the space or more broadly to know about, the impact of the intersection of race and mental health on young people?
Yeah, I think race has a big part to play, because depending on obviously whatever, I'm going to speak as a black person, because that's what I mainly understand. And I think it's difficult, but also I've worked with different young people of different ethnicities and different races. There's stigma that comes with it. There's a lot of challenges they feel like when it comes to their mental health and well-being. But not only that, we know, for example, if you're a young person who's coming from a disadvantaged background, you're more likely to experience mental health. But also, for example, black children, they're more likely to be referred to mental health services through social workers than they are by the GP, which shows that if they're going to the GP, it's either, it's okay, get over it kind of thing. But then social workers, they spend time understanding family dynamics, trying to help families, trying to help young people. It's that actually this is not behavioral issues. This is not you being a problem. This is not you being, stereotyped or experience bias, but it's actually you need support. It's about mental health. And because for example, within a black household, how often is mental health discussed? How often is it normalized for you to be okay? And when you're, for example, a young black person who's experiencing stigma, identity, trying to live in a system where essentially you've got structural issues and systems that don't really support you, and sometimes you're seen as a problem, and sometimes you're not really supported to get the support that you need, or you're kind of put to the side, and you maybe parents and family don't have the money to be able to give you support or give you access to private care. You've got to wait on a waiting list for a year or two to get this support. And sometimes you don't even get there because you're just thinking, I've got to cope with this on a day-to-day basis. And the main thing around, race is around the fact that when you sit there, like I learned this a lot when I went to uni. I grew up in areas where essentially I was the only black person. That's where I've grown up, like without many black people around me. But when I went to uni and I was around loads of black people, I started to realize, wow, like loads of people came from London. I was like, this is the difference where people are really affected by the system and the structures that they have. Because where I've grown up, it's okay. But when I started to see how some of my uni mates were experiencing mental health and they weren't able to get the help or support, or they didn't even want to acknowledge, that's the first thing, acknowledge that it's mental health. It's like, this is normal part of us growing up. And when you're, for example, black, you're taught to actually be strong, deal with it, it's fine. But what the issue is when it comes to your mental health, that means you're functioning in survival mode. You're not like, what we need is people to thrive and flourish. But when race is at this forefront of that, and it's essentially a barrier to accessing support, or, we know the health inequalities that people of different races face. And it's like, how do we ensure that these people are actually thriving and flourishing rather than surviving? Because our mental health affects so many different areas of our lives, opportunities, quality of life, how we show up in the world, how we treat ourselves, how we treat other people. And all these things people, are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But young people, for example, of different races, or if you're Black and if you're experiencing trauma within your household, and you have nobody who you trust within the system to be able to go to and speak about that, you're not going to have anywhere to support yourself or move forward. And when I've gone into schools and I walk in, I've worked in South London and I've worked in East London and Northampton, and then I go to schools around Suffolk, the demographics are different. But when I walk in and they see it's a Black person, they're like, oh, hello. So I think representation matters, being able to talk about this stuff. Like, I've gone through it and I'm open about some of the stuff that I've gone through when I'm running workshops and speaking with young people. And I remember one school when I went there, they were like, can we have you back next year? We want you, nobody else, because our children need representation and they need someone like you. And I think we need to have more people within the space who can actually advocate and shout off the rooftops that actually this is not behavioral issues. This is it's not trouble. It's not these kids that are, they're causing issues, or, it's not crime. It's actually these young people are just trying to survive. And without the support, they're not going to get where they need to. And that's where we need to make this kind of talk, like mental health and well-being, a part of every day. So we start to recognize that actually, we want to thrive. We want to get forward. We want to move forward. And we want the next generation to have better situations than us, because I know my generation didn't. And I think hopefully the next generation and future generations can have that.
So thinking about your own sort of experiences and your work as well, how has that kind of driven your mission today?
I think what I always go down to is the fact that we are human, not broken. That's what I go by. And I think when we stop trying to fix people, to fix the situations, and actually say, how is it as people that we can move forward? And it's also about responsibility. There's times where things haven't gone my way and, life is maybe challenging me and I'm thinking I should blame this should be this should be that. But I'm like, you know what, Vivian, what can you do? What do you need? Do you need to speak to somebody? Do you need to be a little bit, do you need to take a step back? Are you just overwhelmed? And I think it's about understanding that, having that compassion for ourselves and also forgiving ourselves. And I think sometimes we struggle with that. And I think we struggle with being kind to ourselves. And I think that's the number one thing that maybe is not talked about in mental health, about the voice that we have in our head, how we speak to ourselves, how we treat ourselves every day. And a lot of times we tend to look for that externally. But I think because we have to deal with ourselves 24/7, we have to do that work first. And I think if we can lead with that and be role models for young people, because a lot of the stuff that I speak about, everything, I've gone through it. I've had to do the work myself. I've had to work on myself, and I've had to put the time and effort in. And when I speak to some people, sometimes I'm like, this is not like something you do over 1 week or 2 weeks. It's a lifetime commitment. It's like, and that's the same thing when it comes to shifting structures and moving things forward and removing barriers for people. It's commitment over time. And we have to put that commitment with ourselves and helping generations. And I think we need to just keep moving forward little bit by little bit. But and I think it's just also about having patience and knowing that things are not going to happen straight away. But as long as we keep raising the awareness, and my work is very much along the lines of, I wasn't seeing many people that looked like me talking about this type of stuff. I wasn't seeing people who actually are taking the time to sit down with young people and try to understand them, hear them, and really see them. And actually, I wasn't seeing many people who were essentially, who understood that maybe when a young person is going through, is doing stuff in school, doing little things I've seen as bad or naughty, what's behind that? And I've worked in alternative provisions and, kids that have been kicked out of school, and you realize it's nothing to do, it's everything to do sometimes with their home lives. It's everything to do sometimes with the systems and structures and them not having the support. And it's about, how do we just keep making sure young people are aware that there's people that care and people that want to make a difference. And I think that's where my work comes in, is very much around being of service to people, about connecting with people on a human level rather than being surface level, and having that curiosity to make a difference. And then resilience just comes naturally as a part of that, and you build adaptability skills and you build skills to essentially keep moving people forward rather than us being stuck, moving backwards. We want to keep moving forward. So we see people thrive and flourish, as I said.
Love it.
You're very much speaking our language when you're speaking.
Really?
Like,
Curiosity,
yeah, because and really enjoyed what you were saying about the importance of compassion and kindness. Because going back to what you were saying about how much young people see on social media about where you should be, this is the life you should be living. That narrative of kindness and compassion and the ups and downs that we go through as people, like those stories are not necessarily as foregrounded in society as they should be, because if they were, then it gives young people a balance of like, oh yes, okay, I can do both. I can be ambitious and thrive, but also know that I need to take time to work on myself, and that's okay. And I think that's an important message to hold on to.
And everyone's journey is different. And I think that's the main thing. Everyone's journey is different. We have to go through our journeys. And what works for me may not work for you. What your definition of happiness or whatever it is different for you, for me. So I think having your own definition of things, actually taking the time, like you said, to work on yourself, because understanding that your journey won't look like everybody else's, and that's okay.
Yeah, love that. And that leads us on to the final question. We always like to end with a kind of future-oriented question. So if you imagine a future, not just for Kamelion, but for young people's mental health in the UK, thinking about having a more equitable kind of approach or thought process to mental health, what kind of gives you hope for this future?
What gives me hope is young people now are listening, and they're wanting to prioritize their mental health and well-being, and they're willing to learn, and they're open. And I think we have a generation of young people that are wise. They're wise, and they're actually, the way they see life is so different to, I don't know whether it's because they have access to so much information that they're growing quickly, they're dealing with a lot of adult stuff, but with essentially young people's toolkits, but they're learning bit by bit. And what gives me hope is that young people are wanting to be better. Are wanting things to be better for them, and they're willing to shout off the rooftops for them, and they're defiant actually. Some of them, they're defiant. They're like, no, we're not having this. And I know when I was growing up, they were saying millennials talk too much, but now these ones are a little bit more different. They're like, they're taking a little bit further. But what gives me hope is also that we can start embedding these things into everyday life through technology, and not that so that young people can actually say, actually, I can spend 2 minutes on here a day, and that's enough. Like, I always use the stat with young people, like, invest in yourself 5 minutes a day. In a week, that's 35 minutes a week. In a year, that's around 30 hours. And over a lifetime until retirement, it's around over 1,500 hours you're investing in yourself. And I always speak about mental health around, it's about you doing stuff for you. Not what feels right for everybody else, but what feels right for you. And what also gives me hope is that we can give young people support when they need it, not when they're at crisis point, not having to wait weeks or months. But actually, when young people say, actually, I feel like I want to work a little bit more on myself. I want to understand myself a little bit more. I want to help myself. I know I've got somewhere I can go to. But not only that, embedding it into an everyday life that they can talk about Kamelion as they talk about, TikTok. They can talk about, Instagram, about Snapchat. So when they start to talk about, like, what, I'm going on Kamelion. Are you going to be on Kamelion? Yeah, I'll see you on Kamelion. So a little bit like that. So so there's no stigma around it. So you can literally, working on yourself does not mean anything is wrong with you. It just means you're human, learning and growing. And that's what gives me hope, that we can have a generation of young people where we can embed this stuff every day, and they can learn actually that a life will have its ups and downs, and that's okay. But I know actually I'm preparing myself as I'm learning and growing as a person. I will handle those things a little bit better, and obviously acknowledging that it's not always going to go well, but that's also okay. And knowing that young people know I can help myself in this space, but I can also seek support when I need to. And it's not going to be like, that you shouldn't do that. Like, you're something, you know, you're not a crisis point. It's actually, no, I've learned this and now I'm here and I know I need more support than where I was before. So I think it's about young people having that awareness. I think that's where it starts, awareness to move forward and seek support when they need to and have daily support when they need it.
Love that.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
That brings us to the end. But just to say, honestly, absolute pleasure to have you on and just listening to your great work, but also the development of the Kamelion app. And it's so inspiring because I think all of us probably sitting here have had that idea of like, oh, to create an app, but you've done it.
Yeah.
And I love the story of kind of approaching that person and it coming to fruition and it very much being co-created with the young people. So yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for
Thank you for
being
having
on.
me.
If people would like to kind of follow you or kind of get involved more, hear about your work, where can they kind of find you?
Oh, just the Vivian Tanaka on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah.
Vivian Tanaka on Instagram and TikTok, and obviously the app as well. Thank you so much.
Just Kamelion.co.
Kamelion.co.
And we'll put it in the show notes as well,
No.
so people can click the link.
So we have been 3 social workers talking with Vivian about her great Kamelion app. Do have a listen. We'd love to hear your thoughts, reflections on this episode. Young people, get involved, download the app. You can follow us on Instagram at Matters Podcast and on LinkedIn on Social Matters. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.